Washington housing bills to watch in 2025. More than 24 bills aim to unlock great neighborhoods, greater affordability, and less red tape for Washingtonians.
Washingtonians from Spokane to Sequim, Washougal to Wenatchee, are struggling to afford homes and rents in their communities due to a deep housing shortage. While recent years' laudable legislative actions have begun to relegalize more homes, in all shapes and sizes, it will take years of dedicated effort to make up for decades of stunted homebuilding in cities and towns. It will also take a series of smart policy upgrades to correct for all the restrictions that have outlawed anything but the most expensive kind of housing in the residential neighborhoods of Washington's cities: single-detached houses on their own exclusive lots. Legislators are considering numerous bills in Olympia this year to do just that. Below, Sightline catalogs the ones we're watching and, in many cases, weighing in on. The first several are our highest priorities for the 2025 legislative session. Washington residents interested in supporting these bills can subscribe to the Homes 4WA emails for action alerts and informational resources.
Sightline's priority bills. Free communities from costly parking mandates, SB 5184, HB 1299. Sponsors, Senator Bateman, Representative Peterson.
Parking mandates are local government's requirements that every new home or business come with an arbitrary, predetermined number of parking spaces. From bowling alleys to churches, daycares to moth breeding facilities, yes, really, these excessive prescriptions drive up the cost of new homes, businesses, and community resources at a time when Washington urgently needs more of all of these things. It writes sprawl into law and makes it harder to build the great neighborhoods and main streets people love in their communities. The Parking Reform and Modernization Act would cap residential and commercial mandates and provide full parking flexibility for projects like daycares, senior housing, affordable housing, and other building types that need it most. To be clear, the bill does not bar anyone from building as much parking as they like as part of their project. Rather, it returns these decisions to the people investing in their communities, whether a homeowner, home builder, or entrepreneur, who are best positioned to know how many parking spaces they need for their dream to succeed.
Incentivize transit-oriented development with smart funding tools, SB 5604. Sponsor, Senator Leas.
Transit-oriented development, TOD, is a strategy of building more homes near transit hubs so people can live closer to and more easily access the places where they work, learn, and recreate. Pursuing this strategy in Washington in particular would make the most of the state's large public transit investments in recent years. With these benefits in mind, SB 5604 would establish several new ways for the state to incentivize TOD. But unlike typical TOD bills, it does not address zoning at all. For new housing developments in transit station areas, it would create special property tax abatements, sales tax exemptions, lower excise tax rates, and reduced impact fees, along with associated affordability requirements. It's designed to complement TOD zoning, existing or future. High interest rates and construction costs have made apartments difficult to finance, and future permitting has plummeted in cities throughout the state. That's why SB 5604 focuses on helping housing development pencil. It doesn't rezone because that's not the limiting factor at most major station areas in Washington metros.
Legalize abundant, affordable apartment homes near transit, HB 1491. Sponsor, Representative Reed.
Similar to Washington's 2024 TOD bill, HB 1491 would legalize larger apartment buildings near major transit stops, with stipulations that some of their units meet affordability mandates known as inclusionary zoning, IZ. Setting statewide minimum standards for multifamily zoning near transit is a key piece of the TOD puzzle. However, the effectiveness of HB 1491 is jeopardized by its uniform IZ requirement, which could backfire by impeding housing development in the very places we need it most. Sightline sees great potential for merging HB 1491 and SB 5604, described above, so that the inclusionary zoning element is funded.
Legalize MDUs, HB 1443, SB 5332. Sponsors, Representative Gregerson, Senator Shoemake.
Mobile dwelling units, MDUs, are a low-cost, fast-build, flexible solution for more homes now. They're something of a kid sibling to better-known ADUs, accessory dwelling units, the backyard cottages and basement apartments that Washington led on legalizing in 2023. But MDUs have a number of advantages over ADUs, namely that they're faster, cheaper, and more adaptable to the changing needs of their owners and landmates, and all without the need for public subsidy. They meet a critical need of the price rung for many Washingtonians while ensuring safe, inspection-approved hookups to water, sewer, and electricity services. HB 1443 and SB 5332 would legalize 1 MDU per residential lot inside urban growth areas throughout the state.
Honor the intent of historic landmarking, HB 1576, SB 5554. Sponsors, Representative Whalen, Senator Salomon.
Historic landmarking is an important means of honoring our community's pasts while building for their future. Unfortunately, it can also be weaponized against building new homes when landmarking is allowed without the consent of the property owner. In Washington, that's how it works in about a quarter of Washington cities, including Seattle and Tacoma. In those cities, typically anyone can nominate a building for landmarking, and that step alone can kill a home building project by injecting uncertainty over whether anything can be built at all, uncertainty that can drag out over a year or more before the final yes/no landmarking decision. The risk of that delay is especially toxic for the small builders that typically construct the middle housing that 2023's HB 1110 legalized. HB 1576 and SB 5554 would make the reasonable change to require owner consent and set a minimum age of 40 years for landmarking a building as historic.
Sponsor, Senator Salomon.
A small elevator is better than no elevator, and it improves accessibility for residents, including the growing population of older adults in Washington. SB 5156 would allow elevators smaller than what standard code dictates in buildings up to 6 stories in which elevators are not required. The bill would also mandate adoption of national and international standards to reduce costs. These changes would make it more feasible for builders to include elevators in small apartment buildings, creating more accessible apartments.
Code reforms for energy-efficient homebuilding, HB 1183. Sponsor, Representative Dewar.
Too many small, outdated pieces of code needlessly make home building more expensive or can prevent innovative construction methods. HB 1183 is a sort of goodie bag of upgrades, including a prohibition on local requirements for facade modulation or upper-level setbacks for mass timber, passive house, modular construction, and affordable housing. The bill also grants setback and height leeway for extra insulation to facilitate passive house construction and retrofits.
Anti-displacement and mortgage helper lot splitting, HB 1096. Sponsor, Representative Burkiss.
HB 1096 would let property owners split off and sell a part of their lot for the construction of another home. This practice of lot splitting offers cash-strapped homeowners a mortgage helper that can help prevent displacement while also creating on the new lot the kind of affordable starter homes many Washingtonians are seeking.
All cities doing our part on housing production, SB 5148. Sponsor, Senator Bateman.
SB 5148 would hold cities and towns accountable to doing their part to build the homes Washington needs. It would grant the Department of Commerce new authority to review and approve the local housing plans required by state law. And for cities that fail to bring their housing plans into compliance, it would establish a builder's remedy granting automatic permit approval for multifamily developments that meet certain affordability thresholds.
Other housing bills to watch. Clear and Objective Development Standards, SB 5613. Sponsor, Senator Salomon.
SB 5613 would require all residential development standards to be clear and objective to prevent sloppy standards from enabling frivolous legal challenges that needlessly delay home building.
Design Review Reform, HB 1160. Sponsor, Representative Whalen.
HB 1160 would limit local design review to an administrative process only. Seattle and other Washington cities use volunteer review boards that add cost, delay, and uncertainty to homebuilding and that rarely improve design.
Relax energy code rules when adding housing to existing buildings, HB 1757. Sponsor, Representative Whalen.
HB 1757 would make it easier to add housing to existing buildings by sparing the new units from having to comply with the latest energy code, which can incur exorbitant expenses that end up sinking a conversion project altogether.
Allow homes on first floor level of apartment buildings, SB 5555. Sponsor, Senator Salomon.
SB 5555 would increase allowances for homes on the first floor of mixed-use apartment buildings that are often required by local zoning to have street-level commercial uses, rules that have resulted in lots of empty storefronts in cities across Washington.
Reform condo liability laws, HB 1403. Sponsor, Representative Taylor.
HB 1403 would make several improvements to state condo liability law, including the establishment of private defect liability insurance for builders of condominium projects of up to 12 units.
Subdivision reform, SB 5633. Sponsor, Senator Lovelett.
SB 5633 would broadly rewrite subdivision processes, including a new but optional process for lot splitting.
Streamline unit lot subdivisions, SB 5559. Sponsor, Senator Lovelett.
SB 5559 would modify the process for unit subdivisions to better align with the state's lot splitting allowances for middle housing that enable townhouse development.
Authorize the creation of tree banks, HB 1153. Sponsor, Representative Dewar.
HB 1153 would establish a tree bank policy to compensate for trees lost to development.
Legalize rural ADUs, HB 1345, SB 5470. Sponsors, Representative Lowe, Senator Gerner.
Companion bills HB 1345 and SB 5470 would legalize detached accessory dwelling units, ADUs, like backyard cottages and guest cabins, in rural areas, with some limitations.
Middle housing for counties, SB 5471. Sponsor, Senator Gerner.
SB 5471 would give counties the option to authorize middle housing within urban growth areas.
Legalize emergency response kit-built homes, SB 5249. Sponsor, Senator Wilson.
SB 5249 would legalize kit homes, i.e., prefabricated homes one constructs via a kit of materials and instructions in all residential zones in the case of an emergency, like a wildfire.
Study construction costs for reduction opportunities, HB 1108. Sponsor, Representative Clicker.
HB 1108 would create a housing cost driver task force to study the factors driving high home construction costs and make recommendations to help bring them down.
Stabilize rent increases for tenants, HB 1217, SB 5222. Sponsors, Representative Alvarado, Senator Trudeau.
Companion bills HB 1217 and SB 5222 would cap annual rent increases at 7%. Establish processes around reviewing supportive housing projects, HB 1195.
Sponsor, Representative Peterson.
HB 1195 would clarify processes for siting projects, including permanent supportive housing, transitional housing, indoor emergency housing, and indoor emergency shelters.
Outlaw algorithmic and other rent-fixing methods, SB 5469. Sponsor, Senator Salomon.
SB 5469 would prohibit the use of algorithmic rent-fixing software and non-compete agreements between landlord corporations. Limit corporate ownership of single-detached houses, HB 1732, SB 5496.
Sponsors, Representative Thomas, Senator Alvarado.
Companion bills HB 1732 and SB 5496 would limit corporations from owning more than 25 single-detached houses each.
Sales tax exemption for affordable housing, HB 1717, SB 5591. Sponsors, Senator Bateman, Representative Levitt.
HB 1494 and SB 5591 would allow a city or county to create a sales and use tax remittance program to help develop affordable housing.
Update the multifamily tax exemption, HB 1494. Sponsor, Representative Ramel.
HB 1494 would make several small modifications to the multifamily tax exemption, MFTE, based on recommendations from the Department of Commerce.
Provide low-income tenant assistance, HB 1099. Sponsor, Representative Lowe.
HB 1099 would establish new rental assistance programs for low-income tenants living in housing authority homes.
Provide mobile home park resident assistance, HB 1365. Sponsor, Representative Orcutt.
HB 1365 would establish new assistance programs for residents of mobile home parks.
Homes for Heroes, HB 1022. Sponsor, Representative Connors.
HB 1022 would provide down payment and closing cost assistance for low-income people in targeted professions like firefighters, nurses, military service members, police officers, and mental health professionals.
County-level RET to support affordable housing, HB 1480. Sponsor, Representative Ramel.
HB 1480 would create a county-level real estate excise tax, REET, to fund area affordable housing projects.
Expand where daycares can locate, HB 1212. Sponsor, Representative Lowe.
HB 1212 would legalize daycares in all zones except industrial to help address the acute shortage of daycare slots available to Washington families.
Relegalize neighborhood corner stores, HB 1175, SB 5421. Sponsor, Representative Clicker, Senator Shoemake.
Companion bills HB 1175 and SB 5421 would legalize small businesses in all residential zones to support the kinds of neighborhood retail and services that help weave the fabric of great neighborhoods and healthy local economies.